Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show is to provide you information the bought-off, lamestream, fake media is not going to touch. Look, you can join us every Sunday. It's free at davejanda.com for our radio show, Operation Freedom, which airs out of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. All you have to do is go to davejanda.com, hit the upper right-hand corner, the Listen Live button. We're there for you. 2 to 5 Eastern, great guests, analysis you're not going to get from the bought-off, lamestream, fake media. But in addition, we're also at davejanda.com, not just 2 to 5 on Sunday, but 24/7. At davejanda.com, we have a free public site where we upload information on a very regular basis. We also have our subscription service, 30 cents a day, I believe one of the biggest bangs for the buck in all the internet, where we have extra shows, the WTF Geopolitical Show, the Insider Insight Show, the Department of Advanced Research Show, our healthcare symposiums, our contributing editor sections, all available for our subscribers, plus all the archives of our podcasts all the way back from the radio show to October of 2010 since its inception, and all the archives from our Insider Insight Show. All available at davejanda.com. I hope you'll join us. Plus, we obviously have this YouTube channel, the only authorized YouTube channel for my original content. All these other channels, including Dr. Dave Janda 2, that's a fraud channel. That's a fraud channel. Anywhere where these presentations occur outside of this channel, they're stolen. Don't watch them. Watch them here. We're always here for you 24/7, Operation Freedom on YouTube. Today, what I want to focus on is the deep state and their puppets finally being held accountable on a number of fronts. I know there's this mantra out there that nothing's happening. I understand that. We don't have the people in orange jumpsuits and the handcuffs. Right, that has to happen. To reestablish the rule of law in our country, which has been stripped by the globalists over many decades' time, that needs to happen. But I truly believe it is in the works. And here's why I believe that. Is that wishful thinking? Is that hopium? I don't believe so. Look at what's happened in the past several weeks. And this is why I think 2019 is going to be a big year for freedom fighters and a really bad year for the globalist syndicate, the deep state players. On December 13th, 2018, there was the hearing that occurred with the House Oversight, Government, and Reform Committee. Now look, that was the committee hearing that was delayed for a little over a week because of the Bush HW globalist funeral extravaganza, probably the best way to put it. It was initially set for the 5th. It was then pushed to the 13th. Now, what had been said before was there are going to be several people testifying at this hearing on the 5th and then move to the 13th. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Tom Fitton does phenomenal work. Judicial Watch does phenomenal work. Tom Fitton testified on the 5th. But in addition, it came out that there were going to be some whistleblowers that were going to testify. And there was word that Huber, the prosecutor that Sessions had appointed from Utah, that supposedly has been overseeing a lot of these, that had been overseeing a number of these sealed indictments, was going to testify. Now remember, when Huber was appointed, he was given 2 directives. 2, that's it. 1, to look at how the email investigation was handled by the FBI and the Department of Justice about Hillary Clinton. And the second being how the Justice Department and the FBI were investigating the Russian collusion issue with the Trump campaign. Those were his only 2 directives. It did not involve Uranium One. It did not involve the Clinton Foundation. So when it was announced that this was going to be a hearing about the Clinton Foundation, my question I had was, Well, what can Huber say about that? Because he's working on how the Department of Justice and FBI handled the emails on the Clinton investigation, on the Clinton email issue, and about the Russian-Trump collusion issue. So, and I believe that was, the fact that he was going to testify, I believe was disinformation. I believe it was meant to look at the shiny object, look at the shiny object, but the real prize were those whistleblowers, and we'll get to in a second. So I believe it was a diversion, because let's face it, a lot of folks that have spoken out against the Clintons in public never made it to the public venue because something bad happened. That's not hyperbole, it's a fact. So the day of the hearing, the 13th, Tom Fitton does a great job testifying about the issues, about the lying that occurred. And these two whistleblowers by the name of Moynihan and Doyle testified. And I watched it live. And the bought-off lamestream fake media does not want to discuss this because it was devastating. It was devastating for the deep state. It was devastating for the Clintons. Now remember, my sources from the very beginning have told me the Clinton Foundation is nothing but a front for at least one of our intelligence agencies, and it was a front for money laundering, potentially issues with drugs, and weapons. And what these two whistleblowers did is they connected all the dots. And I believe all this focus on Huber was to take the limelight off of them, to enable them to get out in front of the public at a congressional hearing and put the meat on the bones. They put more meat on the bones than Huber ever could have. Because remember, Huber is not looking at the Clinton Foundation. It came out in the hearing, and there was a number of bombs dropped, but there was one nuclear bomb. And the nuclear bomb dropped by both Moynihan and Doyle was the following: that there is an active, criminal, ongoing, open investigation of the Clinton Foundation being run through the Little Rock field office of the FBI. And when they dropped that bomb, Mark Meadows, who was the chairman of that committee, said, well, now it kind of, if you will, makes sense, adds up why the prosecutor, Huber, isn't here, because if there's an open, ongoing criminal investigation, it's best that a prosecutor involved in looking at some other issues not be involved, because whatever that prosecutor is looking at, well, if it would come to a trial, could get thrown out on a technicality that information that was supposed to be presented in a courtroom was being presented to the public, and Meadows said, now I get why Huber's not here. I believe the plan was always behind the curtain not to have Huber show up. But they put him out there as the shiny object. Look who's going to be here, to give Doyle and Moynihan free passage to get into that testimony, into that congressional hearing room. Now, here's what they testified about. And these were the points I took away that were critical. And these folks have tremendous amount of government experience. I believe Moynihan has experience with the Drug Enforcement Agency. Doyle has experience on Wall Street doing criminal investigations. Here's what they came to. And what these guys do is they're essentially bounty hunters. Okay? They go in and they look at government money that has been ripped off. And they get a cut of that, I believe, is how they make their dough. And here's what they came back with. Number one, the Clinton Foundation was acting as an unregistered, underline that, foreign agent. That the foundation had acted as a foreign agent, which was it was not entitled to under their 501c3 status as given to them by the IRS. What Doyle and Moynihan stated is the Clinton Foundation was only granted a nonprofit status for its work in developing the Clinton Library. That was it. and all this Clinton Global Initiative and all the stuff they were doing in Haiti and around the world and all these was not sanctioned by their nonprofit status. In other words, it was illegal for them to do this. And the fact that they were dealing with foreign governments and were unregistered foreign agents makes them subject to treason. This is what was presented that the fake media is not talking about. In addition, they spoke about misrepresentation and misallocation of funds, that the foundation did not comply with IRS regulations, that the IRS was involved with organizations and issues not approved by the IRS initial documents and regulations, and why they were initially granted the nonprofit status. They stated that a number of the transactions occurring with the Clinton Foundation with foreign governments, while Hillary was Secretary of State, was based on pay-to-play agreements. In other words, pay us at the foundation a lot of money, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that, well, that your country gets more aid, your country gets more weapons. This is illegal, but that's what Doyle and Monahan presented. They also presented issues on misuse of funds at the foundation. Quote, the foundation did not use funds for charitable causes, end quote. That they're not a charitable organization, but in fact the Clinton Foundation is a closely held family partnership and is used to advance the agenda of family members, Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea. In addition, they pointed at the donors, and they said the donors should have done their due diligence because it was obvious that if they read, and they were entitled to read the charter of the Clinton Foundation, of what they were based on being a charity for, the library. The fact that they were donating money to causes such as AIDS and Haiti and across the board, that they were not allocated for that. And supposedly they mentioned, or somebody mentioned, that Bill Gates was upset about this because he had donated a bunch of money. He said, wait a minute, you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. Supposedly there was a big fight between Gates and Clinton. But what Doyle and Monahan pointed out, all the donors that have taken tax deductions, those should be clawed back. And in fact, penalties should be applied to the donors for not doing their due diligence. In particular, they also pointed to their involvement at the Clinton Foundation with European countries. That European countries were in discussions with foundation senior officials, Bill, Hillary, Chelsea, and developed contracts with those countries that was far beyond anything approved by IRS guidelines. They stated that the administration costs of the Clinton Foundation were a minimum of 60%, when most charities have administration costs of 15% or less. They stated that, again, these pay-to-play donations were prevalent and pervasive in the Clinton Foundation. And in particular, when they were pushed, they said about these foreign countries, they said, well, let's just look at Mozambique. Mozambique had a relationship with the Clinton Foundation, an agreement. And essentially, the Clinton Foundation was a foreign agent for Mozambique, not registered. And in fact, the agreement between the Clinton Foundation and Mozambique was the foundation was actually brokering money transactions and brokering pharmaceuticals for companies and the government of Mozambique. Now remember that, and some of my friends in Canada pointed this out to me, that there was this recent murder-suicide that occurred of this drug company CEO. And he supposedly was supplying drugs to the Clinton Foundation for their work in Haiti. Well, it turns out the investigation shows it wasn't a murder-suicide of this couple, that in fact it appears that the wife was tortured and then killed in front of the husband, who was then murdered. Now, reportedly, the husband, who was the CEO, was getting very critical about what was happening with the Clinton Foundation and what he saw happening with his relationship with them, with the drugs and the like. Coincidence that those two are dead? This guy doesn't think so. In the hearing, Doyle and Monahan were asked, based on the facts, do you believe that there was probable cause of criminal wrongdoing with the Clinton Foundation? Both said yes, significant. Do you believe there was criminal activity with the Clinton Foundation itself? Both said yes. In fact, they said, well, how are you so confident of that? And Doyle states, well, and Monahan stated, well, we talked to the CFO of the Clinton Foundation. He said, quote, I know where all the bodies are buried, end quote. And this came from Zero Hedge. The CFO of the Clinton Foundation, thinking he was meeting an old professional acquaintance, admitted to investigators, or whistleblowers, that the charity had widespread problems with governance, accounting, and conflicts of interest, and that Bill Clinton has been commingling business and personal expenses for a long time. That was actually reported through John Solomon as well, through The Hill. And what the whistleblower said at the hearing was, yeah, what we found, that CFO told us was correct. We found that Bill Clinton mixed personal business with the Clinton Foundation, used donated funds for personal use. Direct quote, funds were used as a piggy bank for senior leaders of the foundation, Bill, Hillary, Chelsea, for personal expenses such as, and they said, well, such as what? And they said, their vacations. And then they were pushed. Both sides, both the Republicans and Democrats, really one side, they're all Republicrats owned by the globalist syndicate. Well, if this is so important, why didn't you turn this over to Department of Justice? Well, we did. In fact, here's what they said. We turned over the documents as early as 2017 to the IRS. In addition, we turned over documents to the FBI and actually had feedback from the FBI and were told there was an here's the bomb, the nuclear, active, ongoing, open criminal investigation of the foundation through the FBI field office. And then they said they also sent letters. They also sent information about the foundation, although they didn't know if it was in his purview, to Huber in April of 2018, May, October, and November. And they also sent information in June of 2018 to the Department of Justice Inspector General. But they said that the open criminal investigation that they were aware of because of feedback they had from the FBI was through the FBI sources that they had. And then they said, well, do you have any proof that this investigation is occurring? And they said, well, yeah. In fact, we have pictures of this jet sent by the Justice Department that came in August of 2018, and people left the plane, went to the Clinton Foundation, took out boxes, and here are the boxes, and the boxes were put on the plane and went back to Washington. See, what they were saying is, look, how did they know that plane was going to arrive at 8 a.m. on August 18th of 2018? They were told by the FBI to be there to confirm that things were moving ahead. So they went there and they took pictures of it. Now, it's my understanding while Doyle and Monahan were testifying on December 13th, 2018, the Justice Department again sent up another plane down to Little Rock, more records out of the Clinton Foundation, and actually also sent a plane, as I understand it, to the airport closest to where the Clintons have a hangout in Chappaqua, New York. Again, more documents. Now remember, there was that fire in Chappaqua. Coincidence? When Doyle and Monahan concluded that between $400 million and $2.5 billion was used improperly by the Clinton Foundation. Oh, by the way, I believe it wasn't August 18th, if I come to think about it. It was August 8th of 2018. That jet was chartered by the Department of Justice. There's a lot happening because the Clinton Foundation is not only linked to the Clintons. As I said at the beginning of this video, it is a front for the deep state. Money laundering, drugs, weapons. You take down the foundation. You not only take down the Clintons, but you take down a huge chunk of the deep state. There's something else that's ongoing that you need to be aware about that the bought-off mainstream fake media is not touching. Jerry Corsi. I've had Dr. Corsi on my show twice on Operation Freedom. I really was a fan of his and felt that he was a great freedom fighter. About a year ago, I turned a little sour on him because of some stuff he was doing and saying. Then he was subpoenaed by Mueller's team. They were trying to create a link between Corsi and the emails that, this quote, the Russians hacked. It was a leak, not a hack. Just listen to our interview with Bill Binney from our platform. And then that Corsi was working in conjunction with Trump. None of that's true. He was interviewed, interrogated for 40 hours, and over Thanksgiving he became very somber and saying he was going to plea out, and and then all of a sudden Thanksgiving weekend, all of a sudden things changed. And I think what changed is he came in contact with Larry Klayman, who I believe is one of the toughest, if not the toughest, most feared attorneys by the deep state. Larry's been on my show a number of times in Operation Freedom and on our Insider Insight show. For Larry Klayman to take Corsi's case, because what Corsi ended up saying at the end of that Thanksgiving weekend is, look, I was being forced to lie. That's suborning perjury. Mueller's prosecutors were telling me I had to lie in order to finger Trump. And I just can't do that. I can't do that. Okay, I'll go to jail. I'm not doing that. Suborning perjury is a crime. When you're suborning perjury that leads to the removal of a president of the United States unduly, that's sedition. And that is what Larry Klayman decided to work with on Jerry Corsi. They are suing Mueller and his team for $350 million for trying to get Corsi to lie, to suborn perjury against the President of the United States. This case is going to court on January 3rd. They tried to push it off, Mueller's team, by saying, oh, the government shut down, so we can't, oh no. The judge said, bull, it's going to court on January 3rd. We have to watch what happens January 3rd. But in addition to that, Larry Klayman is tough, and he has won some huge cases. He represented a friend of mine against the NSA and beat him. And Jerry, Jerry Corsi, I believe, is in really good hands with Klayman. And for Klayman to take the case, one, he doesn't take case unless he thinks he can really win and really shove it into the deep state's throat. And number two, he wouldn't have taken Corsi's case if he felt Corsi was not playing for the freedom fighters. But now the Senate has jumped on and trying to coerce Corsi to testify and present information so that they can leak it, right? And Larry Klayman wrote this great letter, and I got my hands on it. I want to read it to you because the fake media is not going to touch this. It was written to Burr, who's a Republican, who's really a globalist, Warner, globalist, this committee, and they're trying to get Corsi to hand over information and testify in front of them, right? And here's what Larry Klayman, the letter he wrote to Burr and Warner. In response to your letter dated December 14, 2018, to David Gray and me, Larry Klayman, counsel for Dr. Jerome Corsi, on behalf of Dr. Corsi, we respectfully decline your offer for our client to produce voluminous, overly broad, irrelevant documents, which you can obtain from special counsel Robert Mueller in any event, as well as to appear before an interview with your so-called, quote, bipartisan committee staff, end quote. Rather, you and this bipartisan staff are highly politicized and thus ill-equipped to conduct a fair and neutral investigation and are merely a part of the ongoing Republican and Democrat elite establishment witch hunt to destroy the presidency of Donald J. Trump by making persons such as our client whipping boys in this unethical, if not illegal, pursuit to coerce false testimony. Dr. Corsi will not be part of this, and thus we respectfully request that you do not continue to harass and effectively threaten him and his family, as has been the case with the special counsel and his unethical pro-Clinton, pro-Democrat, and anti-Trump conflicted prosecutors. On behalf of our client, we wish you a happy new year, free from politics of personal destruction, designed to serve the interests of the elite establishments of both political parties, bent on taking down the 45th President of the United States so they can run their own candidates for the White House in 2020. Sincerely, Larry Klayman. Boom. It's my understanding the deep state is petrified of Klayman and what Corsi has. They have a deep state operatives coercing perjury in order to entrap a president on false charges. This is huge. And they're panicked. And it's my understanding Mueller's team are trying to settle this so that this doesn't go anywhere. Well, Klayman might settle part of it, but he's not going to shut up. And neither is Corsi, I believe. The deep state, there are things happening. And I believe 2019 is going to be a big year for freedom fighters and a really bad year for the deep state. Let's see what happens on that hearing on January 3rd. Let's really keep watching these whistleblowers, because Doyle and Monahan, they're not backing off. They are not backing off. And Huber still has his investigation on the Clinton emails on how it was handled by the Department of Justice and the FBI, and his investigation on what the FBI and Department of Justice did in their, if you will, framing the Trump administration with this fake Russian hack narrative. That's where Huber's focused. And remember, Department of Justice official, Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who was the guy who brought us all this information about, which has led to 26 high officials in the FBI and Department of Justice to be either fired, resigned, reassigned, or removed and put in hold because of ongoing internal investigations. And remember, Horowitz is the guy. When it came out just this past week that Mueller's team tried to deep six 19,000 text messages between Strzok and Page, who came forward and said, we got him. We got the 19,000. Horowitz. Horowitz is also the guy who recommended McCabe for prosecution. There's a lot coming. And I understand everybody's frustrated because there haven't been any jumpsuits, orange jumpsuits. The deep state is panicked. And if you don't believe that, go back to the George H.W. Bush funeral and take a look at Jeb. One, he shouldn't play poker. But number two, that's not the reaction of a guy who's winning. Or if you look at these other people opening their programs and the reaction they're getting when they see the envelopes. Those aren't winners. They're losers. I thank you for joining me. Again, we're available every Sunday, 2 to 5 Eastern, DaveJanda.com, free, and listen to the show. In addition, 24/7, DaveJanda.com, free side, public side, subscription side, 30 cents a day. I believe one of the biggest bangs for the buck in all the internet. I hope you'll join us on the free side and support us on the subscription side. Look, these videos are not monetized by YouTube. We got rejected. Why? Because people that have stolen my content, put them on their sites that are already monetized. YouTube's telling me that they're duplicates. My original is the duplicate, right? So in other words, my car got stolen, and these guys are driving down the street, and they get in a crash with it, and the insurance company is paying them, not me, for my car. It's wrong. So the only way you can support us, if you like these videos, if you like what we do on DaveJanda.com, and again, we present a tremendous amount of content on our subscription side, I hope you'll join us